And we're live.
Hello, 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 B7 community. Oh, Diane, we are live after our first three episodes on your mindset, your marketing, your money.
Yes.
And I believe you have received incredible feedback on those first three episodes that we've been airing, I think, since the early May, right? And it's been an exciting journey for me to journey with you on these deep dive conversations that we feel are crucial for female founders to scale as we help them get out of their own way, but also just give them tips and tools and our own experiences how to successfully scale. So, Diane, what's it been like for you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm looking forward to today. I hope we will have some people joining us so we can help them out. So if you are watching at this moment, please drop a comment and let us know that you're here, your name, and maybe the country you're dialing in from. And if you have any questions, please let us know also in the comment section so we can answer them. And yeah, I had this afternoon a very interesting conversation in a Facebook group of a friend of mine. And we
Yeah.
talked about what is the difference between growing and scaling. So we already had a huge a discussion about what exactly is one and what is the other. And yeah, it really got me thinking about this, about our life tonight, because we also tapped
Yeah.
into mindset, we tapped into marketing, we tapped into money. All those things keep popping up when we talk about entrepreneurship, about how female entrepreneurs see and experience their journey. And I think it just confirms how important it is that we talk about these subjects and that we give people the space they need to talk about it themselves, about their issues, about certain challenges that they face, especially because it's almost like a taboo is hidden on all these subjects. It's, you know, you cannot complain, you cannot tell people how rough you have. And it's important to talk about it, especially on on the mindset, one of the first subjects that we talked about. And yeah, I really stay firm into saying that having a good mindset for your business is almost essential to really get to that success level. What do you think?
Yeah. It I think it's probably one of the most crucial early elements that you have to address, Diane. Because I've seen it with so many female founders. Many, many times it's not government, it's not the lack of funding, it's not some of the obstacles that we seem to point to. But many times it's really just the female founder getting in her own way, and whether that is her relationship with money, whether it is the fact that she has self-limiting beliefs, but I sincerely believe that, and again, this is based on having worked with female founders over the past 8 years. And then my own experience, right? Because I got in my own way too many times. So just based on that, I think if you can get your mind right, you can definitely steer your business in the right direction. But if you are dealing with imposter syndrome and you're dealing with self-limiting beliefs and you're dealing with coming from a survivalist background and you're bringing that into your journey, those are things that you have to get over if you want to successfully scale. And I'll say it again, I think many, many times we are the ones that get in our own way. But I loved what you touched on earlier, your conversation earlier today around the difference between growing and scaling. So let's park there for a second, right? Because it's a really good question. So what
Yeah.
was the key takeaway from your discussion this afternoon?
Well, I explained what I see is the difference between growing and scaling your business, because I I believe that a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the growing section, because you grow, you get a client in, and you get another client in, and it just all goes in a certain structure, in a certain routine. But when you're really up for scaling and you really want to grow your business, then you need to make sure you have the right processes, you have the right structure, you have protocols in place. So as soon as you really are getting new clients in, your business is thriving, then you already know what you need to do. You already
Mhm.
are prepared for what is coming at you at that moment, because you cannot let it overwhelm you, because that is what happens a lot when no one is prepared for, oh my god, we're scaling. And it can be sudden. I mean, a scaling procedure doesn't have to be planned. I mean, I think it's half of the time it's just maybe your post goes viral, or maybe you have a client who says, oh, I have a lot of friends, I send them all over to you. I mean, there are a lot of ways that you can scale in a quick way, and then you need to be prepared. You need to know what you have to do to make sure that you deliver the quality that the people pay for. And if you can't deliver the quality, then you go back to the growing part, because then you're not ready to scale, and then you will struggle all along. Because growing, in a way, it's not getting stuck, because you are moving, but it's slow. It's a slow move, and it's usually before an entrepreneur really gets stuck. Because if you don't have the mindset to grow bigger or to scale, you will always stay small, and then you need to always hunt down your clients to make sure you have a revenue that you can pay your bills. And yeah, that was one of the things that we talked about, because a lot of people think that growing and scaling is the same thing. And when you set up a business, that is not necessary to have a structure, not to have a process, or that you have procedures for how all the things go in your business. And yeah, that's things that I have seen happen a lot when they come to me and say, oh, I want to scale my business, but they haven't done any work, not any foundation set to scale your business on. So you cannot scale if you don't create the foundation first.
Oh, absolutely, Diane. I love that differentiation. And you're so right. So many of us, I mean, I fell victim to it very early on in my journey, where I started in my mother's lounge, grew from there to have offices in Ravonia and Santon. And from there, offices in Uganda and Kenya. And so we were scaling, growing out of my mother's lounge to Santon, amazing. But scaling into East Africa was a whole other ball game. And you're so right that you should take the time to prepare for that scale. You should take the time to prepare even for your growth, right? So if you're very early stage, I think it's vital that you optimize that time that you have to prepare, prepare for growth. And so start documenting your processes and your systems, because I did it. It was all in my head, right? It was all here. I hadn't documented anything at some point. And I think when we train entrepreneurs, we tell them that that's the difference between working on your business and working in your business,
Business,
right?
yeah.
And so when everything is in my head, if I'm sick, the business is sick. If I'm on holiday, the business is on holiday. And so early on, during I think that very early stage where you might not have, or you might have a handful of clients, use that time obviously to keep pushing sales,
Yeah.
but also if there is downtime, use it to document your processes, document your systems before you start employing. Listen, the last thing you want to do is to go through that process while you have 10 people working for you, 20 people working for you, because they're going to
Yeah.
come into your space not knowing what to do. There's
And
no
you have already
handbook, there's no training, or as they call it in the tech space, a playbook, right? They don't, and I did that. I was there, and I always say that early stage Anto certainly gave my employees a terrible brand experience. Awful. Simply because I hadn't documented anything. And that's the thing, like you were saying, growth can happen overnight, right? You can go from being in your mother's lounge to closing a significant deal. And by closing that significant deal, now you're running and you're churning. But that does not negate the fact that it's so important. Before your first hire walks through those doors, you
yeah.
need to have your playbook. They need to know where everything is. They need to know exactly what is expected of them in terms
Yeah.
of a job description, as well as obviously, um, how do they apply for leave? How
Yeah.
is is
The
paper,
rules.
is electronic, and again, tech has made it so easy now to be able to automate so much, so many of
Yeah.
your processes. But I think at a bare minimum, Diane, just to echo what you said, use that early stage time that you have to document your processes and your systems. And then use a platform like Trainual to for your employees to have access to it. So it's not paper based, or if you haven't emailed it to them, then they're not going to have it. So they can just go onto the platform. You can put a welcome video, and everything is automated so that, and that's in your growth phase, so that by the time you start scaling, everything is in order. And so I think the other mistake that many of us make is being ill prepared for scaling, and then it
Yeah.
takes us out of the game
Yeah.
because we're ill
And then we
prepared,
get into doubt.
right? Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so crucial that from launch to growth, that period there, use it to your advantage to document your processes, document your systems. And I mean, it doesn't have to be 100-page document, right? Keep it as
No.
simple as you possibly can. Obviously, making sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And so when you open another office, there's a playbook. That office
Yeah.
knows exactly what they need to do, right?
Definitely.
So very, very important, Diane. And I think I shared this in one of the 3 episodes. The quote, or someone said that when you start selling, you've launched.
Yeah.
When your employees start selling, you're growing. When your clients start selling, you're scaling.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the
Definitely.
point that we all want to get to, right? And so, again, that very early stage period between you launching and your first employees, that is such, I think, I wouldn't say it's the golden era of entrepreneurship or the golden area, but
Yeah.
that's where you have so much time to really decide what do you want this business to look like, sound like, and as part of that, documenting it and being very clear about where you want to take the business. And so, yes, you might have jumped into the ocean of entrepreneurship, um, and you just started running and things are going well and you're doing all of the things. Take a little bit of a step back. And even if it's on a Saturday morning, take out that time and I always say that for creative entrepreneurs, this is the most tedious thing you will ever do in your business.
Yeah.
Processes and systems and documenting it. Oh, it is the most tedious, it's the most boring thing you will ever do. But it is the best thing if you want to give your employees an amazing brand experience.
Yeah, you can automate as well a lot of the processes. It's not like you need to write it down or just make like a Word document. There are so many tools that you can leverage to make sure that everything is documented. So it doesn't have to take you a lot of time. It doesn't have to be something so boring. You can really use all these things to help you, even if you don't like it. But it saves you so much time when you are going into a scaling and you have to hire people and you don't have to say, oh yeah, I will help you with this, and then someone else also wants your attention, and then you get a phone call and someone else wants your attention, and then you go, oh, what do I have to do? And that's what I talked about this afternoon as well. You need to have your priorities right. You have to set the priorities straight, that when you go into scaling, you know exactly what you need to do, what thing is first, what comes second, what is third. So you're structured. You can work in a very structured way through your scaling without getting overwhelmed, without getting doubts, without feeling frightened or anxious. I mean, it doesn't have to be scary as long as you're in control of the situation, and you can stay in control by being prepared. It's like with a lot of things in entrepreneurship. If you're prepared and if you did research and you set up a structure, then you're already halfway there. I mean, and the easiest time is, like you said, when you're starting. You usually have a lot more time. Use it to your benefit. Use it to prepare yourself for the coming scaling, for the new clients, to make sure that you're prepared for whatever comes your way. So then, you can have so much profit from it when you are ready, and you don't have to say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now because this or that. I mean, in my business, in my food retail business, my husband did the sales, and as soon as he closed contracts, then we would just send him away, because we needed to implement 600 daycare centers twice a week into our operations, into our finance. We needed stock management. We needed new employees. We needed new crates. We needed new trucks. We needed to expand in every way to make sure that we could handle all those clients. And yeah, I mean, you can only scale by being prepared every time, again and again, because every time it's different. Every time you need to personalize things, you need to adjust things, improvise. So it's important to prepare yourself. And a lot of people don't prepare. And that's, I think, the point where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in their business, because they're not prepared, so they get overwhelmed and they get doubts, and they see imposter syndrome coming up because they see everybody else thriving, and they're like, I don't know what to do anymore, and yeah, those are things that are easy to overcome if you're willing to put in the work in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely, Diane. And I think we covered this in one of the episodes where many early stage founders, their first recruit would usually be a PA,
Yeah,
right? So they can go to networking events, hand out their business card, and say, call my PA, and she'll make an appointment.
yeah,
And especially, you'll see this a lot of times with founders that come out of corporate. And so they want to emulate the corporate that they
yeah,
come out of, right? And so I'd say if you are ready to recruit and you're growing now, you're in that beautiful growth phase, and you're ready to recruit, that person needs to fill the holes where you are not good. They need to
Yeah.
fill those gaps. And so, if operations and being systematic, dotting every I, crossing every T is not in your wheelhouse, you should be able to identify that early on and then bring someone on board that can actually journey with you to make sure that operationally you are running a well oiled machine. So forget about that PA early on.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot of cost as well in the beginning if you immediately hire a PA first. I mean, unless you're in a business where you really need it, um, usually you just need someone to help you take some load off your plate. And yeah, in the first years, that's why it's called a startup. In the first years, you need to work 80 to 100 hours a week to make it work. And you need to walk that way. You need to have those steps in order to later on document it and tell someone how you want them to work. It's not that you have to keep doing the work yourself, because then you're working in your business and then you're never going to be ready to scale. But if you already know how you want the procedures to be done, how you want processes to run in your business, then it's easy to tell people what you need from them. And you can't expect to hire people and then just say, well, you have to do this. You already know what to do, right? And then expect them to read your mind and do it exactly as you want it to be done, because that's not going to happen. Because if you're not structured as well in hiring people by telling them clearly what your expectations of them are and asking them what do they expect from you in return, because it's not a one-way street hiring people, it's a two-way street. You need them as well to tell you what they expect from you. Then you have a clear conversation, and then you can say, okay, I want you to do this kind of job. I expect this from you, you expect this from me. Then you can work on something. It's not like, oh, I just shove it down to you because I'm too busy. I mean, that's really easy to do, but that's not how you treat your personnel. I mean, at least that's not how I want to treat personnel. I mean, you need to make sure that everything is just right for the people, and that they feel heard and seen. Even if you're small and you just start hiring people, it's important to be proud of them and to guide them, because you owe it to them and to your business to prepare them as well for what's coming. Communicate about how the business is running. Certain things that you want them to change, or things that they say that you need to change. I mean, it's okay when you run a business and your employee says, I'm sorry, but when we have this discussion, I really want you as well to listen to me. So, I mean, it's important as a business owner to acknowledge that your personnel also needs to have a voice in your business and tell you if they're happy or if they're not happy, if it's clear to them what you expect and what they expect from you. I mean, in only working as a team, then you can get real results with your business, because that's also part of scaling. Interact with your personnel, communicate with them, and make sure that they are also part of the team, so they also know what they're doing and who they're doing it for.
Oh, it is so, so, so important. I love that we're talking the hiring process, Diane, because I think many times, especially if that growth happens overnight, so you've pitched to a big client, you win the pitch, and now you have to start running. It's then so easy to negate the importance of your recruitment process because you have to hire people quickly, right? But I think this is where you should probably take a huge pause because one thing I know, and you'll know this, Diane, your employees, yeah, people will people, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure. I think it was Cody Sanchez that said this the other day, that the role of a CEO is really twofold: sales, so you have to be selling all the time as the CEO. And then the second is to hire a team that can run the business way better than you. And so if you have that mindset, if you're coming into the game with that mindset, then your recruitment process has to be on point. And so there's no rushing it, right? Perhaps so. I take the advertising space, for instance, we land a big client tomorrow and we have to hire creatives in order to help with the campaign, then perhaps the best approach would be to go freelance instead of hiring permanent
Yeah.
employees that you have not put through a rigorous recruitment process. So I think, yeah, if that's growth or scaling is happening at a pace at a fast pace, that's okay. But then take a bit of a step back to make sure that the person that's going to be there 2 years, 5 years into this thing, that they're really committed and dedicated to building the brand. But like you said, that you as the founder, you also open to having people around you that will give you feedback. So you don't want yes people around you. You don't want people that's going to go, yes, ma'am, yes, boss. Um, you want people that are going to challenge you. And I think for many, many founders, and again, this is around mindset, right? And getting out of your own way is having that team around you internally. So externally, you have your business coach and you'll have your advisory board or board of directors when you're scaling. But internally, you should be able to trust your team. And I think how you get there is that your recruitment process has to be on point. And for employees that will, or potential employees that will complain about your recruitment process, then perhaps they're not cut out to be part of your startup, right? But I think this
Yeah.
is an area where, especially early stage, you have to be very, very careful who you bring on board because they can make or break what you're trying to build. A lot of times we read about toxic cultures and toxic environments, but I think it's really the people that you bring into your space that can create that. And so, again, as the founder, you have to stay on top of this. And that's when you transition from working in the business to working on the business, to make sure that you have architect and designed your recruitment process and your culture, and it is what you have set out for it to be. That it doesn't take on a form and a shape of its own just because we are growing and we're scaling and things are hectic, right? Don't
Yeah.
allow a culture to set in um, that you might not even not that you might not align to, right? So I think
Yeah.
again, two very, very important things that I echo that Cody says is your role as the CEO is one, to be selling all the time. And then number two is to hire a team very early on that can run the business without you. And so that you
Yeah.
then don't become obsolete, that you then start working on the business and start looking for opportunities to scale. If you're still in that early stage between launch and growth, then you're looking for opportunities to move into the growth stage. And then from the growth stage to the scaling stage, right? And so you
Yeah.
have to make sure that whoever's going to be building with you early on has to be an A team. They have to be an A team, and A players will recruit A players, right? And so
Definitely.
don't just go about that early stage recruitment very haphazardly. We have to throw
Yeah.
bodies at this campaign, and so let's throw bodies at it, right? Be very, very intentional about appointing the right people, appointing an A team earlier on so that they can help you build an A team type driven organization. And I think it's Richard Branson that said, if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your customers,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
So it's not just about that recruitment, but it's also then moving into the brand experience that they have internally that goes beyond foosball tables, right? Like,
It sounds very nice.
you know, your culture has to be more than a foosball table or free food. You know, do people really enjoy working with you? Do they enjoy working for you? Do they
And
enjoy
pay them enough. It's also
exactly?
about money in that way. If you only stick to what a minimum wage is for their work, then you cannot expect them to go the extra mile when you're scaling and you need them to work extra time or to help you out when there's really a situation. They will go like, sorry. But if you pay them enough, I'm not
Exactly.
saying overpay them, but pay them enough, reward them when you get a big client in and you get the cash flow in, reward them, give them a bonus, take them out for dinner or take them out, send the group out to amusement park or whatever. Make sure that they also benefit from all the extras that you're getting from the wealth of the company to keep them satisfied because you are going to profit from it, but make sure that they also profit from it. I mean, it's sometimes difficult for a business owner to face that the profit they will need to share as well with their employees. But I never understood that part because you cannot run that business without your employees. You need them. You need them to do their best, to give them their best performance. You cannot expect them to do the best performance if you don't pay them enough. I mean,
Oh,
it's also a money thing.
absolutely. Yeah. And what I'll add to that, Diane, and I think it's probably more Gen Z. Yeah, I think maybe not Gen X's like me, or and may a little bit of millennials, and now we have the Gen Zs. I think they look for so much more. I mean, remuneration in terms monetary remuneration is important, but they want healthy cultures. You know, they
Yeah.
don't want to be part of a startup that is going to burn them out. You know,
No,
and so being
definitely not.
cognizant of that, yeah.
Yeah.
So are you then able to, especially if you're moving from launch to growth stage, are you able to give them a work from home option? Opportunities to train and develop, whether it is LinkedIn or whether it is some paid subscription like Get Smarters, what we have here, or some of those Harvard, Stanford courses, you know, are you able to pay for those? So really giving them a space and an environment where they feel valued. And I think that's what it boils down to, Diane, to your point is make your employees
Yeah.
feel valued. Make them feel part of what you're
Definitely.
building. So
Yeah.
feedback, more now. They certainly look for organizations that's not going to burn them out, where their mental wellness is appreciated, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, we know those early stages, especially from launch to growth and also from growth to scale, it's intense, you
Yeah.
know, and so they obviously have to be prepared for that level of intensity. But how do you cushion that? And and I love what you've said. You know, can you take them out to dinner? Can you take them to an amusement park? But make them feel valued. Make them feel that what you're building, that they're part of that,
Yeah.
and that you're not out here just cracking the whip, you know, expecting them to work those 80-hour weeks and, you know, not making them feel valued. And I think that's where a lot of early stage founders also drop the ball. And so, in terms of recruitment, it's that internal brand experience that you want to craft and design very early on that goes beyond the foosball table, that goes beyond free food. What are your employees really getting out of putting their shoulder behind your wheel? And so as you move from that growth stage to that scaling stage, and you obviously need to be recruiting more people, um, are they referring people to apply? And I always used to say that the way that your employees talk about you when they're at the bar on a Friday evening, that's your culture,
Yeah.
not what you've got on your
They're
website.
your ambassadors as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, love. Absolutely. So give them an amazing bride experience. Give them an
Yeah.
experience that they will talk about and that they will value, and really journey with you from launch to growth to scale, right? And there
Yeah.
are so many different ways that you can make them feel valued.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's also the way to get loyal employees because, in the end, you want people to stick with you through a longer period instead of that you have to hire new people all the time because people leave every 2 or 3 years. I mean, you want people to stay in your business, to grow with your business, to grow as a team. And yeah, I believe that these days it's not so much about getting a degree or a diploma anymore for an entrepreneur when they hire people. They also look very much into skills and creativity and what people have done besides just learning. And it's also extra value that people are hired that may not have the degree, but they are willing to work the extra hours. They have the knowledge, they have the skills, but maybe they didn't get to the moment where they graduated or something. But when I grew up, I remember that you needed to have a degree, you needed to have your papers right, and if you didn't, then there was just no job for you. I mean, my parents often told me if I didn't get a degree from school, I would probably just sell bread at the bakery or something because nothing would w- that was valuable for a job would come my way. So for me, becoming an entrepreneur was almost like the only option I had left because I didn't like school. I stayed until my 18th birthday because my parents didn't give me an option. I started working, and for me, I noticed that I learned a lot quicker when I was working, when I did the job, and that I could really, when people value you, even though you don't have a degree, and they take the time to learn new things, that creates a loyal employee. That creates a feeling of belonging and that someone takes you serious. And for me, that was a big thing. I mean, when you're in school, people see you as a child, but when you're leaving school and you start working, they treat you as an adult. They communicate with you as an adult. And yeah, I prefer that.
And I love that we're having this conversation, Diane. Just in terms of culture, right? What is that culture that you want to create? And continued learning, and especially these days, where technology is moving fast and furiously, creating space for employees that might not have a degree to continue to learn. And so I think back to my days at McKinsey, and yeah, it was an incredible opportunity. Um, but it was very elitist because yes, they do recruit the top 1%, and so for me coming out of that, starting my own business, I put that aside. Having a degree was never it was a bonus almost, but it wasn't what I set out to recruit at all. You know, for me, it was the person's willingness to keep learning. Because that's the thing about being an early stage founder, you yourself are learning, right? You
Yeah.
yourself, you learning new things. And so creating an environment that applauds and nurtures and cultivates continued learning is vital. And I think especially in this day and age, you know, so create that space for your employees to keep learning. So we've touched on a topic that I think most early stage founders, so to the B Stamina community and those listening, I'm sure that your recruitment process, your hiring process, your retention strategy is probably not top of mind. I think back to 26-year-old me sitting in my mother's lounge. That was not top of mind, and closing that
Yeah.
next deal was, right?
Yeah.
And so as we were growing, you know, it was one of those, who do you know? I had an amazing creative director, so I'd be like, oh, we need a copywriter. Who do you know? You know, and there was taken the time to design and architect a hiring process and a retention strategy and a culture that speaks to that retention, right? I did not think about any of that in the beginning. The only, I think, three things, main things that I was probably focused on, and I'll go out on a limb and say that this is most early stage founders, is closing the next deal, managing the project and the finances around that deal, and then
The ongoing
moving on to
business. Yeah.
the next one. You know? And so at some point, it had to obviously become very crucial for me, I think, especially when we started scaling. But that was a few years into Afrofusion. And the one thing I'll say to our listeners today, be stamina community, gain that very early stage, it is golden because there you have the opportunity as you launch, even before launch, right? As you just start thinking about venturing into entrepreneurship, launching your business, this should be top of mind for you. What's the kind of culture that I want to create internally? So that when my employees are sitting at the bar on a Friday evening, and what we're trying to build aligns. Because then you know that they're having an amazing brand experience. Yeah, because it's easy to sit at the huddle on a Monday morning and make you feel good as the founder around that experience. But it's really truly, what do they say on a Friday evening at the bar, you know, and design and craft that culture, that retention strategy with that in mind. And I'll say it again. I love what Richard Branson said. The way that you, or rather, treat your employees well, and they'll treat your customers well. So two
Definitely.
birds, one stone. You can. It's certainly an area that you should be spending significant time on early on, and then having, I think, from launch to growth, especially because once you get to scaling, your in-person availability as the founder might not be you might not be as readily available as you are now.
Yeah.
So that could change, and that's where automation also then becomes crucial, right? So that
Yeah.
period between growing and scaling, um, give give your people as much face time as you possibly can. Because I think, again, I've seen this so many times when founders exit corporate, they try and emulate the
Yeah.
environment that they've come out of, you know, and you have to leave that at the door. Take
Yeah.
off that corporate coat, take off that corporate hat, leave it at the door. The startup space is very, very different, you know,
Yeah.
and back to mindset. And so if you come into the space with the mindset of an early stage founder and not someone that has exited corporate, then I think your chances at success are way, way bigger because you just approach things differently and you're not trying to emulate where you come from. You're not trying to emulate what you might see some of the big CEOs and those that have accomplished.
Yeah.
Learn from them, be open to learn from them, but very early on in your journey, rather pay attention to and spend more time on those processes, those systems, being very
Yeah.
intentional about the culture that you want to create. So, what is your recruitment process? What is your retention strategy? What is your finance process? What are the systems that support these processes, right? Very, very important. And again, to the creative entrepreneurs, it's boring. But it is the best thing you can do for your business.
Definitely. And I think it also will continue in our next month's topic when we're going to discuss about balancing personal and work life. And we're going to talk about motivation. And I think that's going to be a massive topic. And I think we're going to have a lot of time to discuss. And I hope a lot of people will watch it and will join the live as well when we go live in July, because it's so important to have all the right strategies and to have the right mindset to know what's coming for you when you're on your path of growing and scaling. And entrepreneurship is already a tough road. And if there's something that you and I can do to enlighten it for the community, then we're glad to. So if there are people watching or are watching the replay and they have comments or they have questions, you can always comment here and we will get back to you. Or you can go to one of our profiles and just connect with us so we can help you out in any way. And yeah, I think we had a beautiful discussion today as well, a beautiful conversation. And I'm really looking forward to next month when we're going to record our July sessions. And yeah, for everybody who wants to follow us, click the subscribe here on YouTube so that you will not miss any episode that's going live. And yeah, for now, I think, is there anything else you would like to add, Antoinette?
That's a lovely way to wrap our conversation, Diane. Thank you. Yeah, just want to say that I'm looking forward to the balanced conversation that we're going to be having in July, all of July. And again, just sharing our own experiences and trying to make this journey just a little bit, just a tiny bit
Easier.
easier for you.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you, Diane. See you
Yeah,
guys
thank
next time.
you. Thank you. I was really lovely to talk with you again, and I hope that people enjoyed watching us and they learned a lot. So we gave out some really nice gems. So people watch the replay if you haven't watched the entire live because it's really worth it. And I hope to see everybody next time. But thank you so much, and have a great evening. Bye bye.
Bye.